Welcome to the Funeral Funds Life Insurance Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Vandervate from Funeral Funds of America, and you can find us at funeralfunds.com. That's funeral, Funds.com. Whether you're interested in term life, whole life, mortgage protection, annuities, disability, business continuation, or final expense life insurance, we have you covered. Our team of experienced professionals will guide you through the complexities of insurance products to help you make an informed decision. In this podcast, I'm going to be discussing how to find a lost or unknown life insurance policy. And let me tell you one thing, everybody always hopes that there's life insurance when somebody passes away. And if you've done things right, you being the person that owns the policy and will eventually be the deceased that the policy will pay out on, if you've done your job right, your family knows about the insurance policy and specifically where it's at, kind of what the details are, how to get in touch with the insurance company. Basically, if the insured lets the beneficiaries know where the policy is, then when somebody passes away, they've just got to go get the policy, and all the information to contact the insurance company is just handily just recorded right in the policy. You just follow the instructions in the policy. And the first thing you do want to do when somebody passes away is get that policy out and call the insurance company and say, hey, I have a policy here from one of your insured, and I need to get the claims process going and get this death claim filed. And they will send you out all the requirements that they're going to need to get that done in the most expedient manner. However, sometimes when people pass away, maybe there's a policy, but it was an old one, right? And maybe it's not even in force anymore. If that's the case, just call the insurance company up and they'll tell you whether it's in force or not. But the purpose of this podcast is how to find lost or unknown life insurance policies. So there's so many times that when somebody passes away, the family members, children, loved ones are just hoping that they had a life insurance policy in place. They can't imagine that they didn't. How irresponsible would that be, right? When somebody passes away and they don't have life insurance and they don't have assets to cover financial obligations, including taking care of the burial, funeral, cremation arrangements, that's just, that's extremely hard on the family members. And of course, they want some insurance money in place to take care of that so that they don't have to become the insurance company themselves, right? And, pass around a hat and expect everybody to throw money in, or, do fish fries or bingo, or, all sorts of different things, right? That people do when people haven't planned this and there's no money, and people just love these people enough that they want to make sure that they've got a decent burial, but the person who died didn't love the people that they were left behind enough to leave them any life insurance money. So what we end up seeing is people just hoping and praying that there's a life insurance policy out there. Maybe in the past, the life insurance policy got misplaced. Maybe there was a flood in the house or a fire and it got destroyed, and the policy is still in force, but there's no actual policy. Well, if you don't have the policy, how are you going to know which of all the different insurance companies out there? How are you going to know? Because you can't just call insurance companies and say, hey, I've got a policy, or I think my grandpa had a policy with you folks. His name is XYZ. And they're going to say, well, this is private, personal, confidential information. We can't disclose that to you. We can only disclose that to the insured. So you're in a bit of a pickle there. So let's go over some ways that you can potentially, possibly find out if there's a policy out there. Really, the number one, quickest, easiest way to find out if there's an insurance policy out there is check the decedent's bank account for any canceled checks or premium payments, or their online statements or paper statements, anything like that. If they've got an insurance policy, chances are it's being drafted out of their account directly. And when it drafts out, you should be able to just check the bank account page and find out the name of the insurance company. And from there, you can just call the insurance company. As long as it's being auto drafted out, then that policy is up to date, as long as everything's paid up. Another thing you can do if people don't auto draft out, which we don't recommend, we don't recommend you like pay cash or send in checks or anything like that. We actually recommend the auto draft and EFT out of your bank account because that's the best way to assure that the payment's always made and you're not mailing cash or checks or anything into the insurance company that can get lost in the post office or anything like that. The other thing you can do though is somebody is actually making their payments and mailing in checks is check their check register. And again, check the 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 paper records and the digital online records for the checking or savings account and see if there's any checks written out to any insurance companies. Now, you may have to go back a year or so because most people pay monthly. Okay, that's just kind of most standard. It's just easier for people to fit in their budget. But some people will pay quarterly, some will pay semi-annually, and some will pay annually. So just understand you're going to want to go back and look at least a year back because if the decedent was paying annually, that could be 11, 12 months back. So that's probably the number one way. If you don't see any money coming out of any accounts paying for any premiums, oh, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. But that doesn't mean there's not a policy because maybe there's a policy that's paid up, or maybe there's a policy that there was enough cash value in it that they were actually just paying the premiums out of the cash value. Therefore, you wouldn't see that in a checking or savings account. So what you then want to do is just check the decedent's personal papers, any address books, look for any listings of insurance agents, lawyers, estate planning, check in the will, right? Any financial advisors. Check around for a document. We've got a funeral and estate planning guide on our website, and we always recommend people fill that out and keep it with their policy. And that's just kind of like the roadmap of everything you want done after you're gone. And it just lays out clearly what assets and insurance policies and everything are going to be there for those you left behind. And if you've done that, that makes it really easy on those who are trying to kind of unravel this mystery after the fact. Next thing you should do is check safety deposit boxes. They're not as kind of common anymore, but with a lot of older folks, that was a big deal back in the day. You went and dropped stuff off in the safety deposit box for any important papers or jewelry or stuff like that. The next thing you can do is check with any current or former employers for group life coverage. So if somebody's still working right now and they passed away, let's say auto accident or just something tragic, or if there's just anything while they were employed, there may be a chance that there's a group life insurance policy that would pay out. Oftentimes those pay out one times the salary, but with some employers, the employed has the ability to like get 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x. We've even seen 7x, right? So that means if you made $100,000 a year, potentially you could get a $700,000 policy. So check with the employer and they would be able to let you know as well there too. And then sometimes employers, if somebody worked there a long time and retired, there may be some life insurance death benefit available through that prior employee if it's still in business. A lot of those plans were tied with old business. Sears comes to mind, right? Sears is no longer around anymore. And AT&T, I think that's another one. There's a bunch of different one. Alcoa, whole bunch of different companies out there that they're no longer in business. So they may have sent that life insurance business out to another business that maybe absorbed that business or another insurance company or something like that, but no guarantees. But that's a good place to check as well too. Another thing you should do is review the decedent's income tax returns and look for any distribution from any life insurance companies that have demutualized. So there's some insurance companies, insurance policies out there that pay dividends, and that's reported as income potentially. And that's just one more place to look. Another thing is check the decedent's mail for at least 1 year, following the passing for any premium notices. Again, this is kind of on the tail end. We said look back 1 year and see if you can find any receipts or form of payments or anything noting that they were paying an insurance company. But by the same token, after they passed away, keep watching that mail. Just don't automatically throw the mail in the garbage because maybe the insurance company will send a bill to pay an annual payment or something around the policy anniversary or tax time or something like that. And there, boom, there you go. Oh, now we've got the policy. So that would have policy number and all details, and you could go forward from there. The other thing is check out any fraternal organizations, associations, professional member groups, unions. Unions is a biggie. Any other entities like that that the decedent may have belonged to that may possibly offer life insurance to the decedent. A lot of credit unions too. They will give you a small amount of life insurance. Often, typically, it's like only $1,000 or so per member. But maybe the person that passed away had something like that in place. There's also a number of services that can look, do on your behalf, kind of look or search for this. And maybe the decedent had lived in multiple states or something like that. It certainly complicates things like that. Just understand though that if somebody passed away and the premiums were paid, and the insurance company is obligated to pay that off. So it depends on the insurance company and what their non-forfeiture provisions are and all of that stuff. But yeah, if you died at the time that a policy was in force, it's like they need to pay that out. So even if it's a year later, you're going to be able to get that money. But you just do need to check and read the fine print that's included in the policy. One thing we often hear though as well is, how to find an insurance company that may have changed their name, because maybe there was a policy and you found a policy and it's got a name on it and that company's no longer in business. So typically what happens in cases like that is very rarely would an insurance company just go out of business. What they would end up doing is typically, if a insurer was kind of struggling, maybe they didn't have the right asset ratios or anything like that, typically they would be absorbed by another insurance company. They would buy them for pennies on the dollar, but they would still honor all the full contracts and everything that's going on with that policy. So your policy is still valid as long as the premium payments are being made. And as I finish up my discussion on how to find lost or unknown life insurance policies, be sure and contact the state treasurer, or there are some national unclaimed property searches that, if somebody's passed away and the insurance companies have an obligation to pay that, they will post that, because again, the insurance companies have the obligation to pay a death claim if somebody's died, but they can't always locate the beneficiary. Perhaps maybe the beneficiary moved and there's no information, and they will actually just kind of put that in, for lack of a better term, like a holding account. And when the beneficiary comes forward, they get that money. So check with the state treasurer on that. Any unclaimed property, things like that, can go online and type in lost policy finder life insurance or something to that effect, and see if there's anything for your state in particular. All states are different. That's why we tell you just to focus in on your state. You might want to see if the state insurance department has a policy locator service, something like that. There's also some fee-based services out there. MIB, Medical Information Bureau Policy Locator Service. If you Google MIB Policy Locator Service, that will get you in touch with one company that does that. There's also the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, the NAIC, and they have an online life insurance policy locator service. So there is a whole bunch of different ways. And if you've exhausted all of those, then I would probably suggest there's no life insurance, unfortunately. So at that point, you're kind of on your own. You're no worse off though than when you started. You would just know for a fact that you'd have exhausted all avenues to try to figure this out, and find out, in fact, your loved one did not have any life insurance, unfortunately. So there you go. That's how to find a lost or unknown life insurance policy. My name is Randy Vandervate, and I hope this podcast has been helpful to you. Funeral Funds of America can help you qualify for first day coverage or benefits at funeralfunds.com. That's funeral, FUNDS.com. And our phone number is 888-862-9456. We will be blessed to help you with this in the future. Until that day comes, stay safe, take care, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.